Go.
Management is hard.
I don't want to be a big people anymore.
With over 57% of all employees leaving the workforce, the pressure is on. The extra hours leave little time for leisure.
It's party time!
Quiet quitting, mutiny, and a lack of authentic expertise
I want the truth!
has created unfair and toxic work environments for leadership and workers alike. Let's journey down the corridors of your experiences and mine as we discover the answers in Stolen Wisdom. You will hear testimonials and interviews removing the chasm between secular and sacred by infusing biblical truth. I'm Ivan McKinney, and this is the Stolen Wisdom Podcast, where ignorance is the only culprit on trial.
Hey team, welcome to Townsend Nicole Press. I'm here in one of our first brick and mortar locations, which is Townsend Nicole Press, Ghent. Super excited. It's the most lovely neighborhood store, so I really appreciate it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about preparing for an interview because you guys are managers. You're going to have some really great candidates come and see you, but we got to make sure we have the right people for our place. Remember this, that success starts before the candidate walks through the door. You have to operate with preparation, especially understanding that is the key to getting the right people. One thing I know for a fact is you want to look at a person's resume, okay? That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to look at their resume, see what they bring, what experience do they have, what certifications, any type of gaps in their history of employment. That's really important. Be very aware of that factor. Know the role of the person. Like when you hire someone, you need to know that you tailor your questions based on whether you're hiring for the person for the front of the house, the back of the house, a manager, a shift lead, a kitchen manager, and you should know what you're asking for because those are the things that you actually need. One thing I love to understand is structuring the interview, okay? Sometimes we go in, we're like, yo, I'm going to wing this. Don't wing interviews because you're trying to hire someone that's not just for you, but it's for your team. It's for everyone involved. So you have to be very careful with that. You have to use a mix of behavioral and situational questions, skill-based questions. Like maybe understand you use these questions and you execute so you can get to know the people, but do recall and remember legal reminders like you can never ask questions about their age or their marital status or their immigration status directly. These things are prohibited by the law. But what I'm trying to tell you is we must prepare for the people that we're going to meet, we're going to talk to, we're going to connect, we're going to engage with. This is what's very important. The second thing I want to let you know that you might need to do is create a great first impression. A lot of times we look at these things like it's a one-way street, but no, it's a two-way street. You're making the first impression to them because you have to create an environment that's warm and respectful and professional. You're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing you, your business, and you are their first line of defense, their first interaction with the culture of this organization. So you want to make sure that you give them all that they need so that they'll know what they're doing. You have to navigate best practices. Extremely understand that. Best practices is everything. Here's a couple that I do, right? You greet people with a smile, a handshake if so. And if people aren't doing handshakes, because of different things, just greet them with a friendly nod. Offer someone some water or ask them if they don't mind taking a seat. Be attentive. Understand that you set your tone and your voice, and they would fall in love with just the charismatic connection you build with them. All of this stuff matters. Remember that when you're doing an interview with people, it's not an interrogation, it's a conversation. So people are expecting you to connect, expecting you to connect with them, to get to know them as they get to know you. I say it again. This is not a one-way street. It's both ways. Okay. The other thing I want you to do is you need to ask the right questions. When you're in an interview, questions matter. The behavioral questions, the situational questions, skill-based assessments. Those are the things that's very important that you should be doing to really find your best right candidate. So let's talk about those questions. The right questions reveal the candidate's mindset, their experience. A lot of times it gives you their attitude, how they cope, their nature, their vibe, as we call it here at Townsend Nicole Press. You need to know who you are bringing in amongst your team because they are, in essence, are being interviewed to be part of a team. Okay. Here's some examples. Like, say you were interviewing a crew member. Tell me about a time you handled a difficult customer. It's probably a good one to know what is their temperament, how they execute, how do they communicate with difficult customers, or even get into the details of their conflict style. Are you avoidance? Are you a compromising person? Are you a combative person? Those are things you want to know. How do you prioritize multiple customers during a busy shift? We get a lot of Door Dashes, a lot of Grub Hubs. We get a lot of people that order from our app. So we're looking for people that can handle people. So those are some very, very important requirements. The other thing that I want you to make sure you do is say you get someone like, your kitchen manager or kitchen a person. You want to know, how do you keep your place organized and clean? How do you walk through prep or dinner rushes? How do you handle call outs? That's a big one. A lot of times we have seen in this industry that you get a lot of call outs, and some people, they can handle it, some can't. Especially if you're dealing with management. Management, if you're dealing with call outs, you have to be able to show that you have the store's best interest at heart. So these are things that's good questions. Oh, here's another one. Describe me a time that you boosted the team's morale during a tough patch or when something, rough or difficult happened. Sometimes you have to be a motivational speaker, connection, a thermostat, as I call it a lot of times in our stores. Set the temperature, set the tone. The different things you just got to note. And if I give you something like a pro tip, you got to ask follow-up questions. After you answer their questions, um, ask the questions like, what would you do differently in a in whatever they experience or their breakout? Remember, it's a conversation, so they give you some information, you ask more questions. It allows you to get more in depth into their personalities. Okay. The fourth thing I want you to do is assess culture fit. Now, while there are people that have amazing resumes, I mean, they've had so many years of experience in food and whatever you need, even leadership, you have to assess the culture fit because you can have someone that has all of the skill in the world, but if they don't fit your culture, you'll find yourself rolling them out of here just as fast as you brought them in. A great candidate doesn't just have the skills, they also fit the vibe, right? So that's a very important understanding. Um, what kind of team environment helps you thrive? Is a good question to ask for that. If you're trying to assess someone's vibe, right? Um, how do you handle feedback? Or one I love greatly, especially here at CoPress, is how do you contribute to a positive work culture? That is big for us. We even have signs around the store that says only positivity beyond these walls, right? So we want to know, how do you contribute to a positive environment and work culture? So these things are extremely, extremely important. Another thing, like, think of it like this: if I was to give you a fifth point, red flags don't get better with time. So my fifth point is red flags to watch for them. Watch for them in the interviewing process. Sometimes that stuff shows up. Sometimes gaps in employment can be a red flag if you don't go and dive deep into it. Sometimes I know on the resume stage, if someone is always changing jobs every week, every month, they can't stay, they don't show longevity or skill in that. That's something you might want to consider. Let's be honest, not every candidate is the right fit. Some will have red flags, and there are some common red flags you probably want to consider. Like, for example, late arrivals, no explanation. If you're coming to a job, you're doing a job interview, it's probably not good to be late to that job interview because we're assuming you'll be late when you come to regular work. Someone that basically speaking poorly about their past employers. Now, I know we have bad experiences, but someone that bash their past employers is a common red flag in this world. Vague and inconsistent answers could be a big issue. If I'm asking you a question, I want an answer to that question. I want the answer to the question I asked you, not something that's so broad that I can't determine where you stand on an issue. And lastly, lack of enthusiasm or eye contact. A person should want to be there. They should show that they're interested in the job. I love asking people, why did you choose? Because I'm very interested in that. Are you interested in being here? Is this the place you really want to be? you know. But after all of that is said and done, the sixth thing I think we should focus on is when you're closing that interview, when you're wrapping it up, either with a handshake or just telling them thank them for their time. Your close is just as important as your opening. Some of the best practices I would say is you thank them for their time. You let them know the next steps so that you'll make sure that you make sure that they know what's going to come after this. Be clear, have a timeline, have a follow-up. Show them that you're intentional as an employer as well. That's very, very important. And then one other thing, chapter, I say chapter seven, but point seven, which is very, very important. So I'm going to look at my computer really quickly just to make sure I got chapter point seven. So back to what I was saying. Point seven, post interview review. Post interview review. Um, you always document impressions while they're fresh. You want to get your employees' impression of interviewees. I do a good job of sitting my interviewee, going away intentionally, and letting them interact with my staff, just so that I can see who is this person and how much of they have come out of them. Because the one thing I do not spend a lot of time with is the interview, or meaning the internal interviewer you come in with. I like more your personality. Whoever you are, show up that person. So I'm interested in what my team think about you. And I think you should be interested in what your team thinks about the people that you guys interview. Communication skills are imperative. Um, you need experience, relevance. Look at that type of stuff. That any cross pollination of experiences, as far as if they worked in the same industry, things of that nature. Their attitude, what makes them a culture fit to you, the reliability and how professional they are. Those things are so important. So if I can leave you with anything, I guess I would say when you hire with intention, you build teams that thrive. When you hire with intention, you build teams that thrive. With the right approach, every interview is a chance to discover your next superstar on your team. So don't take this assignment lightly and don't rush into it. If anything, please know we train, we hire, we lead. That's what we do. And as we always say here, positivity, only positivity beyond this point. And I always miss the most important one is teamwork is our strength. Okay. So thank you guys for watching this. I hope you implement this in your training for interviews, or at least in your implementation of interviews. And I'm going to get out of here. And I know you're going to build your dream because you're going to take these steps seriously. Thank you. Mm-mm-mm.